eFishery was a promising startup in Southeast Asia, reaching a valuation of $1 billion USD. That is a valuation that everyone wants, okay? That status of unicorn, everyone hope for. But what happened is that recently it's embroiled with a series of scandal. It was exposed that they inflated their revenue, there was fabricated figures and other discrepancy. Even the co-founders were kicked out of the company recently. That's crazy, right? So how did this darling of Southeast Asia, this hope of Indonesia, the great startup in aquaculture, fall and became shit? Well, that's what we're going to learn about in this episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Raw Thoughts with Mr. Money, where I share with you my unfiltered thoughts, my honest opinion on certain subject matters. More importantly, it's on things that matters to me. So in this video, I want to talk about eFishery. How they went from a rising star in the Southeast Asia startup ecosystem to falling all the way down to become now like a shit business like that. And more importantly, what we can learn from it. So let's begin. Now, we have to turn back the clock. Going back to year 2013, there was these two guys, Jiran Huzaifa and Krishna Aditya. Apparently, they met in college and they came up with this fantastic idea, which is to offer small-scale fish farmers automated feeding system. It is affordable, and eventually they also started offering financing solution and access to market through the use of this app-based platform. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the Southeast Asia startup ecosystem or even Indonesia, you have to understand that it is a very fragmented business landscape, and especially in a country like Indonesia where there are many different islands. Small-scale fish farmers, very often before they even bring their food to the end consumer, they have to go through many middlemen, and this kind of reduces their profit. On the other hand, raising fish in a farm is actually not easy. Apparently, fish is very sensitive. Eat more, can die. Eat too little, also can die. Very easy, get sick, a lot of problem. So when they do this automated feeding system and affordable feed with financing solution, and then you can access to the market directly, walao this one, sibei good. A lot of fish farmer apparently loves it, right? Okay, at least on the surface, the idea, everyone loves it. Then in 2015, they raised their first funding round, their Series A. And at the time, they raised $4 million USD with investors such as Malako Venture and 500 Capital. For those of you who remember, 2015 was a great year, man. That time, a lot of money in the market. Apparently, there was even papers, reports that say, amazing year for the startup ecosystem in Indonesia, right? After that, they went through another 8 more funding rounds, raising a total of 294 million USD. Here's the interesting part, okay? In their Series D, which was the last funding round in July 2023, they managed to reach the valuation of 1.4 billion USD. The sought after unicorn status. And at the time, very king. Their backers bukan alang-alang, people like SoftBank lah, Temasek lah, even our country's fund, KWAP, they also invested. And they invested 47.7 million USD into eFishery at that time, making them a 2.51% shareholder as of January 2025. Walao, imagine that time. The first aquaculture startup in Indonesia becoming unicorn. You know how proud everyone is in this Southeast Asia ecosystem? You know how hard to become a unicorn actually? America a bit easier I suppose. But in Southeast Asia actually very, very hard one. Not many unicorns. Grab is one of them, right? Yeah. And then finally, eFishery. And more importantly, aquaculture, Why is it interesting is because aquaculture is not a sexy business. You're not talking about tech business, marketplace, that kind of stuff. You're talking about aquaculture. You're talking about a traditional business, managed to innovate it, making it a unicorn. I have to say, even myself, I was very proud to be part of the Southeast Asian startup ecosystem at that point. They are like the stars of tomorrow. And for Indonesian, they are their pride, their joy, their hope. And everyone thought of this. It's just a matter of time that this unicorn is going to go IPO, and all of us, not me lah, the investors lah, including the founders, are going to be sibei rich ah, a lot of money ah. Wow, fat tak liao ah. Yeah. But what happened was this. Suddenly in December of 2024, a news broke and said that the co-founder Gibran Huzaifa and Krishna Aditya were suspended. Immediately after that, we started seeing stories leaked. Especially this one. A story was leaked on Deal Street Asia on an internal investigation that was conducted, and they found that eFishery apparently has been falsifying their profit. They claim they have $16 million in profit for the 9th month of 2024 when actually their recorded losses is 35.4 million. And guess what? Even their revenue is fake. Apparently, they reported 750 million USD in revenue, but the actual revenue was actually only 150 million. Walao, so buta they themselves go and add another 600 million there. All this via fabricated transactions. And all this came falling apart when this whistleblower went to report to the board of directors and an investigation was started. Then the leak happened. So later, there was more and more investigation that come out. Apparently, this fraudulent practice wasn't new. It started in 2018. 2018. Remember? They actually started raising funds in 2015. So 3 years after that, they started falsifying the documents. They started committing fraud to increase their revenue in order to attract more investors. Now, whatever their logic was, I'm not sure. It's for us to speculate, right? And again, it's just pure speculation. Nothing solid. I haven't spoke to the founders, obviously, because I do not know them. Now, what happened could be a case of hunting the unicorn, right? What does it mean is that a startup or a company, they desperately want to hit that $1 billion mark. And investors desperately want to be part of a company that could potentially hit that $1 billion mark. So, just pure desperation, no? So they do whatever they can to get there. No? Now, the thing about unicorn is this, right? It's actually meant to be rare. It's even mythical. That's what the name suggests itself, right? So we have to understand that not every company is meant to be a unicorn, and not every company need to be a unicorn. So, for many of you who do not understand this whole startup thing, right? You're hearing this word unicorn. So let's talk about what is unicorn first, okay? Unicorn basically means a startup with a valuation of over $1 billion in valuation, and it's less than 10 years old. Means it's very fast growing. Within 10 years, already achieved $1 billion in market valuation. Now, the interesting thing is that it's coined by this lady called Eileen Lee, the founder of Cowboy Ventures. Now, what is valuation? Those of you who are unfamiliar with the business terms, you may be wondering, what does it mean? Now, it simply means the worth of a company, or more accurately, the perceived or assumed worth of the company based on the strength of the founding team or the company's future potential. Now, so the keyword here is this: assumption. Yup, we are just making assumptions. Now, and this can get really unhealthy, right? Because when you're so fixated of hitting the $1 billion mark and you really want to make it happen, some people will actually fake it till they make it. Why? Because they think that if finally I can make it that time, I'll be invincible and I'm already too big to fail. So why not let's just do it? Now, if you think eFishery is the only example of a unicorn that fake it till they make it and then come crumbling down, think again. One example is like WeWork. Remember how they were the darling of the US startup world? They managed to pull so much of attention from VCs. They even managed to get people like SoftBank and so on as well. And they raised up to a valuation of $1.6. And just right before IPO, it all came crumbling down. Or if you think WeWork, it's just one? No, there's also Theranos. Remember that lady, CEO, who actually always dressed like she's Steve Jobs, like that one? Yeah, She came up with the technology saying that we can make blood tests easier, faster, and cheaper. They even managed to raise up to 1.3 billion USD. And all this came crumbling down when a reporter decided to ask this question. Hey, actually your technology work one. Huh? From there, they found out that the technology was fake. And it blows my mind, right? You have investors who invested 1.3 billion and they never asked this question whether the technology was real or not. What on earth is happening? This really blew my mind. And all these are actually just seriously a very unhealthy fixation of trying to hunt the unicorn, where investors just throw in their money because they desperately want to be a part of this potential company that can turn into unicorn, and they do not even ask any question. And founder will do whatever it takes to sell a story like they are a unicorn. But actually, they may not be. If you're serious about getting your investment alpha, don't forget to check out our brand, the FAQ Show. Every week, there'll be new content about trading tips, deep dive into companies, CEO interviews, IPO analysis, and so on. Definitely, it will help you in making better investment decisions. Check out the FAQ Show. With that said, I want to draw us to the main point of this video, which is valuation versus value creation. You have heard of this word valuation many times, and now I'm bringing this word value creation. Let me start by talking about what is value creation first. For a business, value creation means that you create value for all stakeholders towards mutual growth over a long term. Now, how does this work? A company come up with a great idea, build a great product, and customers love it. Then company can make more money, make recurring profit, and then now business owner can raise funds to scale the business, to expand the business. With the money raised, they can use it to reinvest in the product and the business, build a better product, customer love it even more, come back even more, company make even more profit, distribute to their investors, and then company now can raise even more fund to grow the business, to invest in their product once again, make the product better, customer become happier again. You get the drift. The whole thing is a loop. It just keeps going on and on and on and on. But it's not easy. It takes a long time. On the other hand, let's look at valuation. Valuation simply means how much money are people willing to pay for a business? Yeah, it's that simple. But you think about it, just because someone is willing to pay 1 billion USD for a business, doesn't mean the business can create $1 billion in value. But it's so much easier. And when that happens, guess what? It becomes a house of cards, Think about it like the company we talked about just now. WeWork, Theranos, and eFishery. Where one thing goes wrong, the whole house of cards come tumbling down because it doesn't have strong fundamentals to support the business. It is just all about perceived valuation. It's just about people willing to put in money. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, so why investors are willing to do such a thing? Are they crazy? Well, no, they are not crazy, obviously. The answer is simple. It's because it's easy. It's so much easier to reach the $1 billion mark as a unicorn in valuation. You just need to find people who are willing to pay that money and buy at $1 billion. And over the past 10 years, the time was right as well. Remember during those days? Interest rate was low. There were cheap money flowing everywhere. So investors were willing to take much more risk with those cheap money. Because so many people got money, investors just need to buy at a slightly higher price, then sell it at an even higher price. Like that, turn a few rounds, 1 billion already, make a lot of money already. But on the other hand, if they were to focus on value creation, it's going to be so much more harder, so much more things to do. Now, end of the day, valuation is something that is very short-term, very subjective. It all depends on perception and environment. If money is cheap, you're willing to take more risks. And situation, like for example, during COVID time, companies like Peloton and Zoom did very well, fetch a very high valuation because everyone kind of has this perception that we're going to stay in the house locked in there forever. So these are essential tools. But soon after, when COVID ended, the stocks came down as well. But when it comes to value creation, it may take a long time, but it's much more sustainable through decades and generation. Think of company like Gillette, who makes great blades, BIC, Bic, and Hermes. Until today, it is great companies that are making good money, okay? Yeah. So all this kind of reminds me of this conversation between Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett. You know how Warren Buffett has this very simple value investing strategy. And Jeff Bezos actually one day asked him, "Hey, Buffett, your strategy, so easy, so simple. Why no one copy your strategy?" And Warren Buffett simply said this one thing. "Oh, because nobody wants to get rich slowly." Ain't that true as well in the startup world? Nobody wants to get rich slowly. But great investor like Warren Buffett built his business by being calculative, careful about taking risks, and being patient, most importantly. He's known for not selling his stocks for a very, very, very long time. Now, this brings us to the most important lesson here, which is patience. Whether we are investing in a business or whether we are building a business, patience is essential. It is more important for us to focus on building the fundamentals of a business, which is have a great idea, build a great product, make your customer happy, make recurring profit and distribute to investors, then you raise funds and scale, invest in the product, make your customer happy again. The loop should keep going. And this requires investors to be patient in doing the work. It requires investors to be patient, to not ask for fast return, to keep asking for the companies to keep raising and raising one round after another, whether they need the money or not, just simply because you can increase the valuation. Ultimately, the question that every founder and investor need to ask themselves this: are you building a company just to exit? Or are you building a company because you want to solve a problem and bring sustainable returns for all your investors? Or in short, to build a great company that can last long. So as for me, I have to say that chasing valuation is a very tempting thing because it's so much more glamorous than putting your head down and then just keep working and working and working, which is not glamorous and not that sexy, but instead raising money is much more sexier. You get a lot more coverage and stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying that raising money is wrong. I think it's fine to raise money when it's needed. In fact, I myself could be raising money as we are going to further build certain product-related stuff. But what I want to say is that raising money is actually not fun. Raising money, sometimes, end of the day, you have to keep chasing the valuation. Because if people pay this valuation for your business already, they are expecting a return. And then you are forced to meet that expectation and outdo that expectation. And very often, in order to meet that valuation expectation, you have to burn a lot more money. And when you burn a lot more money, you don't have enough money, you're forced to raise again. But when you want to raise again, you have to blow up your valuation again. This forces you to either take a shortcut by inflating the numbers, or either put your head down and do the work. But if you were to put your head down and do the work, then you got no time to go and raise. So it becomes a chicken and egg situation, right? So yeah, a lot of founders also tell me this one thing: Peter, if you can, don't raise, right? Because raising itself is hard work. It is almost a full-time job. If a founder starts raising money very often, you have no time to handle the business itself. So my point is this at the end of the day. Don't get caught up by valuation. Maybe as a founder, it is much more important for us to keep our heads down and work on the business. Work hard on the business. And if you really need to raise money, maybe it's better to find someone within the team or hire someone to do the raising for you. And here's where if you can find a good strategic investor who can help you with all this, who can be a good promoter of your company as well, then great. Anyway, going back to the story of eFishery that got us started to think about this whole thing, I just hope that the story of eFishery will not just end up becoming this sensational piece of news, the topic to talk about when you're having a coffee with your friend. But more importantly, I think it should be a cautionary tale for all of us, especially people who are starting business, especially for founders and investors, to not just focus on valuation, but focus on the fundamentals of a good business. And if I may say, before any investor were to invest in a company, it's very important to think about whether their technology work or not. Don't just because they are $1 billion company just jump in just like that. Again, I do not know the context of Theranos at the time, but yeah, it's quite interesting to see. Anyway, what do you think makes a good business? And is there any wrong with actually chasing valuation? Now, do welcome to share your thoughts with us in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this particular episode about startups and businesses, guess what? In my next episode, I'll be talking about the startup scene in Southeast Asia, on my opinion on why I think that investors or founders are looking at startup in Southeast Asia wrong. So, if you want to hear more about it, you want to get the update on the latest episode, do hit the notification button and the subscribe button so that when the episode is posted up, you will receive an update. We'll see you next week.